Houston Texans just made 15 moves in 48 hours. Not rumors, not speculation. 15 actual roster-changing decisions before most teams even got their second offer sheet on the table, while the rest of the league was throwing money around like it meant nothing. Nick Caserio sat back, waited for his moment, and then went on a run that nobody in the AFC saw coming. CJ Stroud is walking into year 3 with a completely different supporting cast around him. A front office that heard every single critic say they were not doing enough to protect their franchise quarterback, and instead of talking, they just started making calls. This is not the same team that ended last season with questions. This is a roster that got rebuilt in 2 days. It starts with the offense. David Montgomery comes over from Detroit in a trade, and if you watched him with the Lions, you already know what this does. He is not just a running back. He is the guy who sets the tone for an entire game. He lowers his shoulder, he moves the pile, and he makes defenses respect the run before your quarterback even drops back. That changes everything for CJ Stroud, because now you have a ground game that takes pressure off the pass. And when the pressure comes off the pass, the big plays open up. But it does not stop there. The defense is running it back almost entirely. Will Anderson Jr. is still there. Danielle Hunter just got extended. Sheldon Rankins is back on a new deal. The secondary added pieces. This is a team that was already dangerous on that side of the ball, and they did not lose a single key piece. Now here's where it gets interesting. Everybody is talking about the big names, the flashy moves, the contracts across the league that made headlines. But the smartest thing the Texans did might be the one move that nobody fully understands yet. They signed an offensive lineman for $10 million a year, a guy who has started at the highest level for years. And there is a real chance he does not even play the position everyone assumed he would. That one decision could quietly reshape their entire offensive line. And when you see the numbers behind it, you will understand why this might be the biggest steal of the entire offseason. But before we get into that, hit that like and subscribe button, Texans, and all the NFL content. Let's aim for 500 likes on this video. Look at the tackle market right now. Teams are paying $13, $14, $15 million a year for guys most fans could not even name. That is what happens when you let your tackles walk in free agency. They are impossible to replace. Every GM in the league knows it. You resign your tackles, or you pay a premium to find someone else's. Laramie Tunsil just became the highest paid tackle in the NFL, with a deal worth over $30 million a year from Washington. That is the going rate for elite pass protection. That is the world the Texans were shopping in. And somehow, they walked away with Braden Smith at $10 million per year on a 2-year, $20 million deal that can reach up to $25 million, with $13.5 million fully guaranteed. This is a guy who started 105 games in 8 NFL seasons with the Indianapolis Colts. In his 766 snaps last year, he gave up just 1 sack and 6 penalties. When he was at his best in 2022, he posted a 90.1 run blocking grade on PFF. He was once the highest paid right tackle in the entire league. Yes, there have been availability questions over the last few seasons. He has not played a full slate of games since 2019. But the Texans did not pay him like a gamble. They paid him like a calculated bet with a safety net already in place, because Trent Brown is right there behind him, ready to step in if anything goes sideways. The real story here is not just that the Texans got their guy. It is that they got him while every other team in the league was overpaying in the first wave of free agency. But the craziest part about this signing is not the price tag. It is the position he might actually end up playing. Here's the part nobody is talking about yet. Braden Smith played 2,532 snaps at guard during his college career at Auburn. At tackle, he only took 125. He entered the NFL draft as a guard. He was evaluated as a guard. He was drafted as a guard. The only reason he ever moved to tackle was because Indianapolis had an emergency and threw him out at right tackle against the Patriots. 1 game. That is all it took. A personnel exec inside the Colts building believed he could stay there, and he did, for 8 years. But now he is in Houston, and the Texans do not have the same problem Indianapolis had. They do not need a right tackle. They already have one. Trent Brown started at right tackle last season, and the Texans went 7-0 with him in that spot. That is not a coincidence. That is a guy who earned the job. So when NFL draft expert Lance Zierlein dropped his report saying the Texans have a hole at left guard and 2 players already on the roster to compete at right tackle, the math started to make sense. If you slide Braden Smith back inside to guard, your offensive line suddenly looks like Ariante Ursary, Smith, Jake Andrews, Ed Ingram, and Trent Brown. That is a completely different unit than what people expected 48 hours ago. And this is not new for Houston. The Texans have always loved offensive linemen who can move around. Titus Howard played left tackle, right tackle, both guard spots, everything except center during his time with the team. The front office has zero hesitation about moving a guy inside if it makes the whole line stronger. Where Smith ends up will likely depend on who falls to them in the draft, but the flexibility alone just gave the Texans options that most teams in this league would pay double to have. Now the offense has a new look, but the defense might be even scarier. Most fans obsess over pass rushers and cornerbacks when they talk about defense, but the guys who hold everything together on the back end are safeties. They cover the most ground. They read the quarterback's eyes before anyone else on the field. They turn 12-yard gains into 5-yard stops. They tip passes that become interceptions for someone else, and when you lose them, the entire defense falls apart. Houston learned that lesson last season. Callum Bullock held it down, but the other safety spot was a revolving door. C.J. Gardner-Johnson got cut after 3 games. M.J. Stewart went down with an injury in Week 10. Jalen Reed rotated in and out. The Texans still finished with one of the best defenses in the league, but that position group was the one weak spot on an otherwise dominant unit. That is exactly why Reed Blankenship changes everything. This is a guy who was never supposed to make it. Undrafted out of Middle Tennessee State in 2022. No guaranteed money, no hype. He walked into the Eagles building, earned a roster spot, earned a starting job, and then helped Philadelphia win a Super Bowl in 2024. That season, the Eagles allowed just 174 passing yards per game, the fewest in the entire NFL. Blankenship finished his time in Philadelphia with 308 tackles, 9 interceptions, and 23 pass breakups across 56 games. He signed with Houston on a 3-year, $24.75 million deal with $16.5 million guaranteed. Now pair him with Bullock at safety, move Jalen Pittray into his natural role as the full-time slot corner, and put Derek Stingley Jr. and Kamari Lassiter on the outside. That secondary is not just good. That secondary is terrifying. And that is before you even get to the guys up front, whose job it is to make sure quarterbacks never feel comfortable in the pocket. Championship rosters are not built on headlines alone. They are built in the margins, the spots most fans scroll past on the depth chart. And that is exactly where the Texans went to work next. Ka'imi Fairbairn just got locked up on a 2-year, $13 million extension that makes him the highest paid kicker in the entire NFL at $6.5 million per year. Last season, he went 28 for 28 on extra points. 100%. He missed just 4 field goals all year. That is the kind of consistency you do not gamble with. You pay it and you move on. And the Texans got ahead of the market before guys like Brandon Aubrey and Cam Little pushed that number even higher. Then came the punter move that flew completely under the radar. Houston traded a 2028 sixth-round pick to the Saints and got back Kai Kruger along with a 2028 seventh-rounder. Kroger is just 23 years old, entering his second NFL season. He punted all 17 games for New Orleans last year, averaging 44.8 yards on 56 attempts, with 18 landing inside the 20. But here is the part that makes him different. In college at South Carolina, Kruger was known for his trick play ability. He completed passes, scored touchdowns, and converted fake punts. Special teams coordinator Frank Ross now has a weapon most coaches only dream about having on their punt unit. And then there is Jake Hummel, signed on a 2-year deal worth $5.25 million. This guy played 82% of Baltimore's special teams, snaps last season, and blocked a punt against the Browns in Week 2. He ran a 4.51 at linebacker, 49 career tackles. He adds depth behind Azeez Al-Shaair and Henry To'oTo'o. But his real job is making plays on coverage units that flip field position. 3 specialists locked in. 3 moves most people ignored. And that is the difference between a good team and a team built to win it all. But while the Texans were being smart with their money, other teams across the league were doing the exact opposite. The first wave of free agency is where teams lose their minds. It happens every single year. Somebody panics, somebody overpays, and suddenly the market is set at a number that makes no sense. This year was no different. The Las Vegas Raiders gave Tyler Linderbaum a 3-year, $81 million deal with $60 million guaranteed. That is $27 million a year for a center. The next highest paid center in the league before that was Creed Humphrey at $18 million. That is a $9 million per year jump at a position most teams do not even pay premium money for. The Raiders had the most cap space in the league, and they spent $281 million in the first wave alone. The Tennessee Titans were right behind them at $270 million. Now look at the deals that set the market at other positions. Alec Pierce re-signed with the Colts for 4 years, $116 million. A receiver who has never been the number 1 option on his own team got paid like one. Meanwhile, Nico Collins in Houston is making $24 million a year. You tell me who is the better player? Laramie Tunsil got a 2-year, $60.2 million extension from Washington that made him the highest paid tackle in football. Zion Johnson signed for 3 years, $49.5 million at guard with Cleveland. Isaiah likely got a big deal from the Giants at tight end. Jarrell Robinson landed 4 years, $78 million from Tennessee, as a wide receiver who most evaluators would call a number 3 option at best. NFL teams spent roughly $2.3 billion in the first wave of free agency. $2.3 billion. And the Texans sat back, avoided the frenzy, and filled every hole on their roster at a fraction of those prices. Ed Ingram, at 3 years, $37.5 million, looks like a bargain next to what guards are getting across the league. Every single move Houston made looks smarter when you compare it to the chaos around them. But how does all of this translate when the games actually start? That depends on who is standing across from them on the schedule. Pull up the Houston Texans 2026 opponent list and just look at it. Home games against the Colts, Jaguars, Titans, Ravens, Bengals, Cowboys, Giants, and Bills. Road games at the Colts, Jaguars, Titans, Browns, Steelers, Chargers, Eagles, Commanders, and Packers. 17 games. Their 14 opponents combined for a .475 winning percentage last season. That is below 500. After back-to-back years of facing first-place schedules, the Texans finally get a slate that works in their favor. 5 of their 8 home opponents had losing road records in 2025. That is not a soft schedule, but it is a manageable one. And for a team coming off a 12-5 season, that is exactly the kind of runway you need. The division is where this starts. Houston went 5-1 against the AFC South last year. The Titans finished 3-14. The Colts have talent, but have not proven they could put it together for a full season yet. The Jaguars went 13-4, and Trevor Lawrence looked like the quarterback everyone expected him to become. So that rivalry is real, but the Texans are built for it. 6 divisional games, and if they handle their business the way they did last year, that is the foundation for a top seed. The crossover matchups against the AFC North and NFC East add the kind of primetime tests that build a team's identity. Baltimore at home, Philly on the road, Pittsburgh in December, Green Bay at Lambeau. Those are the games that separate good teams from great ones. And across the AFC, the landscape is shifting. Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs just lost pieces. Lamar Jackson and Baltimore let key players walk, including Tyler Linderbaum. Josh Allen and Buffalo are always dangerous, but beatable. The conference is wide open. The Texans have the roster, they have the schedule, and they have a front office that just proved it knows exactly how to use every dollar, which brings us to the man behind all of it. 15 moves in 48 hours. Nick Caserio answered every single critic without overpaying on a single deal. The offensive line got Braden Smith, Ed Ingram, and Trent Brown. The defense kept Will Anderson Jr., Danielle Hunter, Sheldon Rankins, and added Reed Blankenship to a secondary that already had Derek Stingley Jr., Kamari Lassiter, and Callan Bullock. CJ Stroud has not even hit his prime yet. This team went 12-5 last year, and the Texans just told the entire AFC they are kicking the door open right now.